Hello, Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hello there.
I'm trying to join on another device, but it's uploading quite slowly, so I may I can come back in again at some point.
Okay.
Is it just me today?
So far, yes, but I'm recording it anyway, so that's no problem. And there may be somebody else coming in soon, so well, it's only just 4 o'clock. We'll make a start. Sometimes the other person's a bit late. I know what I'm going to do. So I shall mute you. Right. Oh yeah, I think he's coming in now. So right. So, okay. So just standing, feet directly below your hips. So not too close together, not too wide apart. Weight 50% in each leg, and just nice and loose in your hips. Start to turn in the center. Just letting your thoughts, your attention settle in the posture, your movements, the sensations in your body. Don't get into strict about it to begin with. Let's have a general sense of being in line with the pull of gravity. Try and have your weight a little bit more forwards in your feet rather than stuck back in your heels. Is on so I can see. And if I come a bit closer here, when you go forwards, let your hips drop back as though you're just resting your bottom on a table or something. There's various ways that we can choose to sort of look at the way our posture works. There's models, to call them, I suppose. None of them are complete in themselves. Some of them may make sense to you, others may be just a little bit more obscure. So use the ones that are useful to you at any particular time. Turn it in the center of your body, this area between hips and waist. It's the one often described as being like the hub of a wheel. So like the hub of a wheel, like a bicycle wheel or something, when it moves, the whole wheel moves with it. And along with that idea, that if you've got a bike, the hub is locked into the frame. So it's also, interestingly, the sort of center of the sense of stillness. So it becomes an important place to begin to focus our attention. Physically, we're talking about that area between hips and waist. But we can also have a kind of conceptual idea of the center, which for me would include everything from the waist down into the ground in terms of being centered, or Tai Chi terms being rooted. As you drop your center, so if you think of your pelvis hanging down, I sometimes use the image of a bucket hanging from a rope in a well, for instance. So center of gravity drops, you'll become more stable. And some of the tightness, some of the stiffness in the upper part of your body certainly will just naturally start to dissolve away. And hopefully some of that dissolving away will be around your hips and waist, so that you can turn there. It's a fairly light movement. One image is of a weather vane blowing in gently in the breeze. So you're sort of turning around your center line. Arms feeling quite heavy, swinging from your shoulders. You may even feel a bit of movement in the shoulder joint itself, almost as though somebody had taken your arm and was just gently moving it in a kind of massage. Now with this exercise, again, I'm going to come a little bit closer and turn sideways so you can see. There's a slight curve in my knees. Now very gently, just pull the knees back a bit so they straighten up, and feel what difference that makes to the movement. I find when I do this, I sort of stiffen up a little bit in that center part of the body. So then I just allow my hips to drop back a little bit. So one of the effects of sinking your center of gravity is to loosen the body, to create a bit of space within the body for movement, whether that be the movement of the joints and the muscles. They all need space around them. Or we can think of various metabolic processes, breathing, circulation, and so on, where movement is a key part of it. And we can also include in that just the general sense of a movement through the whole body. So this sense of the flow, the momentum, the energy beginning to build. So for various reasons, with various outcomes, posture is a really important aspect of the whole art. It provides a very good focal point for our attention. So it's not just the body that seems to settle. Our thoughts will begin to settle as well. And again, we get that more spacious feeling of kind of stepping back from our everyday thoughts. And it influences all aspects of our physical movement. Then turn your hands palm out, let your shoulders drop, but bring your arms up a little bit. And then just let your hands drop down. Give your legs a shake. And as I said, there are various frameworks, various models we can use to help us understand the posture. This is always a mind-body process. So the understanding is very important. One image, one idea is that we can imagine a series of platforms working up through the body. I'm just going to grab some books to illustrate this. So I've got 4 books here, and if I if I wanted to stack them up, I would, there's the first one, the second one, the third and the fourth, and so on. Now, if the first one happens to be tilted, the books are going to slide off. But if the first one's okay, then the next book is fine. But then if the next book is also tilted, then everything above that's going to slide off. It's a simple enough idea. So presumably the ground that you're standing on, if you're doing this indoors particularly, is fairly level. So the ground and your feet will be the first platform. Most people have their legs slightly different lengths, but leaving that aside, it means that your knees are probably going to be level. You can imagine that as the second book, second platform. And then it's hips and pelvis. This is a bit trickier because we don't want the hips to tilt to one side or another, but also there's the front to back. So we want the pelvis and the hips to be level both cross and from front to back. It helps if you go back to that image of the bucket hanging from the well. You drop a bucket into a well, it's hanging from a rope. Unless something's getting in the way, it would tend to hang level. Then you could imagine the next platform somewhere like here, bottom of the rib cage, and then your shoulders. And that means that your head can just rest on your shoulders. If I were to get the books and get a ball, if I did it really well, I could put the ball on the top of the books and it would stay there. But if it was slightly out, the ball would fall up. So one of the things we're trying to do is to maintain the alignment and the connection between these platforms, if that's a useful image to you. So we keep in line with the pull of gravity. This is quite tricky as we start to move. So let your hips drop back, and as your hips drop back, you may feel that your pelvis just tucks under very gently. It does that quite of its own accord, and then push up. Sinking down and pushing up. What you may find, you put your hand in the small of your back, there's often quite a deep curve there. As you sink down, because the pelvis adjusts of its own accord, you may feel that the curvature in the small of your back becomes more shallow as you sink down. So there's a little bit of movement there, very kind of gentle pulsing movement. But by the same token, if you're tight in your lower back, that may affect the alignment of the pelvis. Don't try and push your hips into position because you'll almost certainly overdo it. But rather, just again, allow your pelvis to happen. This little movement, this slight change is very important for our alignment, our mobility. So this exercise alone, because it encourages these changes in the alignment of the pelvis, is a very good one to retrain muscle movements, the nervous system, and so on. When we sink down, we feel the legs get a little bit denser, and eventually we get pushed up. It's akin, you get a block of wood or ball, you push it down into water, you feel the water pushing the ball up. So bring your hands around as though you're cradling a ball, and as you push up, just like that, push the ball up, turn your hands over, drop your hips down, let your shoulders follow, and as though you're pushing the ball down. So both directions of movement turn out to be quite strong. So it's difficult to do this, but trying to maintain your shoulders in line with your hips. Don't sort of overdo the movement. Sometimes we find ourselves doing this to get more movement in the upper part of the body. You will get more movement eventually, but try and get the structure, the technique, the movement correct. This exercise is called rooting down for that reason. And then changing to the wild goose, maybe making use of the image of the bird in flight if that conveys an attractive quality to you. Don't let any of the images draw your attention away. We use the images to draw certain qualities into the movement. So the imagery is there to service the movement, not the other way around. Another image we might associate with this is somewhere a bit stronger. If you imagine there's this ball underneath the palm of each hand, and once again you're in water and you're trying to press the balls down, and then you push up and you want, the balls will float up, but you want them to float up quite slowly. Still, remember, it's your whole body moving. So the movement starts with your hips dropping back, shoulders follow, elbows drop. That draws your hands down. When you push up, shoulders go up, your elbows are pushed out a little bit, and that draws your fingers up. One more of these. Sinking down and letting your hands come all the way down now, crossing in front of your belly. Push up, heart in the clouds. One more time. Your hands drop down to your sides, and with the next push up, just on one side of your body, drawing your fingers up, then let your elbow drop. Roll your fingers around into a hollow fist and pull down. Dragon plucks the stars. And then on the other side. Don't rush to change from one side to another. This is grace. Do one more on each side. and just stand. Just to get a sense for how your posture feels as you stand. Shake out. So after a few exercises, there may be physical change in the body. There may also be a change in our awareness. So we can start to get perhaps a deeper sense of the posture. All of those movements involve what we call yielding to the pull of gravity. And that leads to the push-up. So we're trying to allow gravity to work smoothly through the body. Think of your body as being a conduit for gravity, a bit like a drain pipe on the side of a house. If you line it up properly, the rainwater will flow down and it won't get blocked. That leads to an upward movement. So the sinking down is the prelude to the sense of the movement, the energy coming up through. The next two exercises do the same thing, but we don't go up and down. But what we do want to do is to rest in this position. Don't lock the knees. Remember, that causes the tightness. This sitting back, letting the hips drop, everything that's involved in that allows that downward movement. So in this position, it's like we have a balance between the two movements. The downward movement we call Yu in Tai Chi, and the upward movement we call Peng, like two ends of a seesaw with nobody sitting on it. They're equal and it's in kind of harmony. It's in balance. But that means that we have this sense of movement through the body. So the next couple of exercises, we try and keep that and build on that. Which I've got written behind me. Start with your hands at your sides. And then just do the first and the last part of this set. Push your hands up, feel the lengthening through your back and spine. And back down. And then push out to the sides. And back. If you look from the side, you see that my hands stay a little bit in front of my body. Not a long way, but not pulling back there. Likewise, when I push out sideways, they're a little bit in front, not pulled back. That helps to keep our chest nice and open, and the back. Body expands and contracts. Expands and contracts. Notice the sensations again in your back. So your back were being massaged by the movement, lengthways and then sideways. Next time we do this, just rest in that sideways position. Yeah. Oh, just rest your arms there and turn in the middle of your body again, hips and waist. So don't twist your back around. Try and turn your whole body. I'm doing this quite exaggerated, so it wouldn't necessarily be anything like this big a movement. But the key thing here is to move from your center and try and feel the same quality of movement, that massaging quality in your back as you do that. So not twisting up the spine, not twisting up your back. Now go back to the starting position. And this time going into full direction, starting again with the push up. Push out, and as you do, turn in your center in the way that you just did. See how that redirects your arms, and then back to the center. And in the other direction. And back. And then facing forwards and push out. Pushing in 4 directions. Last time. Take your time, bring your hands in. Drop down, and then the next feeling of expansion, one hand pushing out to the side, palm outwards as much as possible and straight down the center line of it. Imagine standing beneath a sort of archway, like an old, old church door with an arch in the frame. And what you're going to do is you push your hand out and then slide it around the arch. And then this time, if it's comfortable, when you get to the top position again, you turn, and that draws your arm across a little bit. Then change sides. See how it feels on this side. And then if it's comfortable, the turn, still with your hips sinking back. Try not to stiffen up in the hips, waist. That will restrict the movement above there. And you might find yourself sort of compensating by twisting your shoulders. And again, just stand. Shake out. I mentioned the platforms earlier, and most of what we do in these sessions is done in that upright position. The exception is the next two movements, which involve this movement. So from here, just thinking about your pelvis, tilt your pelvis forwards a little bit, try and leave your knees soft, and then let your hips drop back, and then tilt your pelvis back just a little bit. And notice when we do that, our head and shoulders move. So again, we get this sense of the alignment of the pelvis being key to the alignment of the whole body. And it's not a back bend, so I'm not doing this. So when I'm in this position, still those platforms going through the upper part of the body, so waist, solar plexus, shoulders are parallel to each other. obviously your head's going forwards at this point. So if you're thinking about the ball on the top platform, it would roll off. But don't do this. So it's not a back bend. So we're going to make use of that movement. Before we go into the main exercise, key to this is allowing your hips to drop down. So here, rather than bunching up the muscles in your chest and your back and so on, try and let them just release a little bit and let your hips drop back, again, as though you're sitting on into something. We sometimes call this sitting. So it's your hips being pulled back by gravity that actually bring your head upright, not tensing up, not tightening up in the muscles of your upper body. We're going to use this in 2 exercises. I'm going to do the exercises quite big so you can see what I'm doing, hopefully, but go nice and easy. It's quite strong in your knees and your back. This time, drop down a little bit more. Let your hips drop back, push up, and as you push up, let your arms follow the movement upwards. And then as your hips go back, shoulders go forwards, and your arms are pushed forwards. We're rowing a boat in the middle of the lake. And on the side, you see, remember, I'm doing this quite big. It's important that your hips go back. If you simply lean forwards, this will happen. You'll fall over because your center of gravity is going forwards. But if your hips go back, more likely that your center of gravity will stay above or in your legs so that you remain stable. One more time. And then the next exercise combines the horizontal and the vertical rotation in the center, one after the other. You turn horizontally, you push the hips back, you turn to bring your hips across to the other side, come back to the middle, and let the hips drop down. It's called polishing the table. Go back the other way. And settle. In the back, so you can see my hips moving. Again, I'm exaggerating here. So we begin to learn that the center part of the body really influences the whole of the body, again, like the hub of the wheel. And a lot of our attention will start to be focused through that. Remember, this is not a competition. See who can move the furthest. One more round of this. And then let your hands drop. Shake it. So we literally move from the center. And so you could describe Tai Chi as centered movement, not in a metaphorical sense, but because this becomes an increasing point of focus. And again, it's the part of the body from here down into the ground that we can bring our attention into. So when we're looking to sort of generate that sense of stillness, a sense of just drawing back from our everyday thoughts and from the hustle and bustle around us, to get a little bit of space in our minds, a little bit of quietness. We have a physical location to bring that to. It's like if somewhere in your house or your garden or in your local area, there's a little quiet spot in a park or something like that, and you found it and you know the way back there. So it has that kind of effect. This is a moving meditation. So although it's exercise, I think the meditative aspect of it is perhaps one that is worth paying more attention to. You will get the exercise, but this is a mind-body activity. So when our feet are hip width apart, we've got more chance of the body being supported. If I'm standing like this, I feel as though I'm standing on a kind of pole or something, something like that. If my feet are wider apart, we do use wider stance in Tai Chi, but your legs will very quickly get tired and they can be a bit wobbly forwards and backwards. So this is the ideal stance. You could measure hip width from the outside of your foot or from the inside of your foot or anything in between. The important thing is to feel the support going up through your body. With that very much in mind, we're going to change the stance, turn one foot out. So I'll turn my right foot out, doesn't matter which one you start off with. You imagine parallel lines going through the feet. So now I step forward with my left foot, and I've still got that gap between my legs, that hip width there, and I've stepped about the same in length. And then just begin to move your weight forwards and backwards. When you go forwards, we're getting about 60% of your weight in the front leg. When you go back, it's more like 70 in the back. At this point, you won't get much more than that. You might not get that much. As you get used to this fluid movement, obviously your upper body just rests there, you feel it begin to move. But also recognize that there's just a moment of settling into the leg. It's not forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards. You go forwards and settle, that spin, releasing in your hips and your knees. You go backwards and settle. And again, maybe just feeling that push back that comes. Imagine if you were doing this on a trampoline or on a bouncy castle. You'd get pushed. So we get this sense of a movement and energy coming from the ground. Now, next time you go into your back foot, rest there and raise the front toes, and more of your weight will go down through front leg. Go forwards, settle in the front leg, push your back knee forwards, and likewise, more of your weight will go down through the front leg. Notice what I said. More of your weight will go down through the legs. Try not to tense your knee. You don't want your knee to be weight bearing. So this will be strong in the muscles of your legs, but you shouldn't feel the pressure of the weight in your knees and hips and ankles. You should feel it in the sole of your foot. You notice my front foot is slightly turned out now to give a bit more space in my hip for the weight to go down through. And we want to gradually increase the amount of weight going into each leg. Now that's going to ask more of the soft tissue of your legs, muscles and tendons and ligaments. So this is a good exercise to practice daily, to condition your legs. And if you do have problems with the joints of your legs, hips or knees or something like that, you'll find this very helpful to do as a daily practice, because the conditioning of muscles like your quadriceps will actually help to protect the joint. And then eventually getting to a point, remembering that platform, series of platforms, if that's a helpful image, bring your back foot in, push back and out to return the foot to its original position, put the ball down, lower your heel, push in gently, called planting, and then move the weight back. Raise your toes, bring the front foot in, just check your posture here. Have you got those level platforms? Go forwards, heel goes down, toes, gentle press in and move the weight. So that planting action, you imagine if you're planting a bulb or a seedling in a pot or in your garden, you put it in the ground, cover it up, and then you gently press on the soil. It's got that same kind of quality, and it just helps you to keep that sense of strong connection to the ground. Good, and shake. And try that with your other foot forwards. So turn out, step through, making sure you've got the width of your step. Imagine those parallel lines. Begin to transfer the weight. Process is described sometimes as filling and emptying. That's quite an interesting idea, because if you imagine if you've got two glasses, one full of water and one empty, if you were to pour the water from one glass to another, the water will drop down to the bottom of the glass and fill the glass upwards. What you may find that you're doing at the moment is, as you go forward, say, maybe sitting up in your hip or your thigh or your knee, and stopping that happening. So the idea is to let the weight go down into the foot and to feel that the leg fills up. It's a shorter than normal step, shorter and wider. If I were to take a longer stance, there's nothing wrong with that in general terms, but at the moment we don't want to do that. A longer stance. Now my body's having to angle, see, so that those platforms are now going out of line. And again, beginning to raise your toes and your heel. Again, notice sometimes what can happen is when we say push the back knee forwards and the heel comes up, we want to lean with our shoulders. Like, why do we want to do that? You don't need to do that. And then bringing your foot in, step through. So your foot moves out in a quarter of a circle. Swings in gently and out. Again, try not to do something like this. Tilt. It's just a rotation to raise your knees slightly. And then step through. So either forwards or backwards. Plant the foot forwards. Settle in. Sink down. So when we maintain the alignment of our body, and when we maintain the root, we achieve a sense of stability. And it's better to think of that than to think of having to balance on one leg. Your leg will support you if you give it a chance. But if you're leaning over, you're not really giving it a chance. Planting the foot each time, and then change direction. And bring your feet down. So it's a very simple exercise, but with a lot going on within it in terms of an understanding of our posture and our root and so on. And one of the things that we're trying to do, going back to that stability thing, is to not get into a fight with the pull of gravity. And that means releasing, or if you prefer, relaxing in areas like shoulders and back, in hips, knees and so on and so forth, which to start off with is counterintuitive. So if you struggle with that, you could try this exercise. And I'm just standing here close to the wall. Just got my fingers on the wall. And that gives me a little bit of confidence to try and relax. And what I can do is I can bring this foot in, and as you can see, I'm leaning backwards, sort of stiff out. But what happens if I release some of that tension? Can I feel more stable? And you can play around with it safely because you've got the security of the wall there. And that way we slowly build a sense of confidence in our movements, a sense of confidence that our body can continue to support us. Now have your right foot forwards. We're going to do an exercise. We're going to bring the arms back into this movement now. Just be aware that as soon as the arms come back into the picture, they'll tend to dominate the picture. Our attention goes fully into our arms. So try not to lose that awareness of what's happening in the center of your body, in your legs with the filling and emptying. They are the things that drive the arms. So we're told that the movement is rooted in the feet with that lowering, dropping of our center of gravity. Transmitted through the legs, and we've seen that both in the up and down movement and in the transfer of the weight. Directed, shaped, controlled through the center of the body. We've seen that when we were doing that, and then expressed in the arms. The exercise we're going to do is called fisherman castanet. Keep your right foot forwards. I'll just show you from the side. I start on my back foot and going forwards, pulling the arms through, and then going back. So from here, I go forwards, my weight drops into my front foot, and then my arms swing through. I go back, and it really is the weight of my arms that gives the momentum to them. They just naturally swing. This is called fisherman castanet. I sometimes imagine throwing a sheet out over a bed or rolling a carpet out. So lovely, smooth, wave-like movement from the ground up through the body, the arms, back down into the leg that you've just moved into, and then change in direction. At the start of the session, when we were doing those slightly faster exercises, I said that maybe you can feel that sense, almost like somebody's moving your arm for you, feeling that movement, massaging movement within the shoulder joint. And you can get the same quality in this exercise. So I'm not doing this. That just means my arms will get tired. Now at the moment, we're moving forwards and backwards. We're facing forwards and our arms are swinging forwards. This time, I'm going to change that. As you go into your back foot, your left foot, you turn to the left and then going forwards, turn into the right. You see my arms again, they're dropping down, they swing up a little bit, and then, so same exercise really, but add in the turn in the center. People more familiar with this, just notice the pattern of expansion and contraction through your upper body. One of the places you can rest your attention and focus your intention, because this time a bit more of an expansion in the rear side, pushing your arms up. You go forwards and you turn. That draws your hands down across your hips. Turn a little bit more to swing up, and then back down. So you have this sideways figure of 8. Some people like to think of it as the infinity sign you get in maths and science sometimes. Very relaxed, soft in your shoulders. Your legs, the energy that comes from the transfer of your weight and the sinking down, transmitting through your back, into your arms, and the rest of your body to move your arms. And the shape is defined through the center part of your body. Once again, the emphasis on your center. Good, and shake out. So once again, going back to that idea of, there's a quiet space somewhere. The more you go there, the more familiar you you become with it, the more we can bring our attention into the center, the more we start to cultivate what Tai Chi refer to as the stillness within the movement. So it's a stillness that pervades the movement. It's a quieter quality to the movement. Try not to stand there swinging your arms around. So this requires a shift in attention. And again, this is where the meditational aspect of the art becomes so important. It's very, very easy for our thoughts to be dominated by what's going on in the upper part of our body. So now try that with your left foot forwards, starting with your weight back, and fisherman cast the net. Don't strive to move your arms more. You'll probably throw your upper body out of line if you do that. It isn't the case that bigger movements are prized over smaller movements in Tai Chi by any means. And then turning. Don't let your arms move too far. The further your hands go from your body, the more likely you are to tense up and to lose stability. Keep that fluidity of movement. And then into the figure of 8. And we're going to combine this with the stepping movements. You can turn your front foot out. It depends which way you're going, really. I'm going to go forwards. You could go backwards. So I'm going to bend my back knee and bring the foot in, or you can bring the front foot in. Let the arms swing up, step forwards, and then go forwards or backwards and let the arms swing down. Planting the foot, just aware of your posture. And if your posture's okay and you feel comfortable with this, as you turn and swing your arms out, just raise your knee and step. And again, if that makes you feel unstable, keep your toes down. Now this time I'm going to change direction before I bump into the camera. Remember, don't move your arms too far from your body. That will add to the feeling of being unstable. Bring your feet pound. Again, if you're not comfortable with going forwards and backwards there, you could do this exercise from side to side. You could go into your left foot, turn, bring the right foot in, and step out sideways. Plant the foot down and move across. And the advantage of this is you can see the wall is right behind me. So again, if I did feel a bit kind of, oh, I'm getting unstable, I've got the security of knowing that the wall is there. And I can maybe even begin to have the confidence to raise up. Don't be in a hurry with these things. Build the movement up slowly. It's not a competition. Okay, and then shake hands. Now rubbing your hands together. And the pads of your fingers tapping over your face, lightly but rapidly. And then over your head and neck. Go on shoulder using the palm of your hand or the fist and your arm. And on the other side. Lightly on your back. Around your hips. And your legs. And then your belly. And the upper part of your chest. And then the closing exercise brings us back to that basic posture once again. It's called Embrace Tiger, Return to the Mountain. So back to the parallel stance. Drop down. And as you push up, your arms come out a little bit like the wild goose, but then they wrap around as though you're holding the ball against your chest. Drawing in, begin to feel your hips drawn down towards the ground and just everything settle. Your chance just to feel that settling process again and how you understand it, how you experience it. This is the way back to that quiet space. One more time after this one. And stand. Just thank you very much, everybody. So as always, if you do have any questions or comments, do feel free to email me. But bye for now.